Alright, here before us we have lot number 3, and it is a book that belonged to none other but the great military commander, Field Marshal Generalissimo Alexander Vasilievich Suvorov. We have evaluated this particular lot at 5 million euros minimally, and we're absolutely certain that it's the lowest opening bid that it should be at, this particular unique rarity. Why? Well, let me try to briefly explain it to you. But first, take a look at the following document. It is in Ukrainian, and it is an authorship authentication certificate for this book. As you just saw, not only is this book, this collector item, very rare, a 1789 edition, but also it has an inscription, a dedication to Suvorov himself. I hope that it does not make, I don't need to speak at great length about Alexander Suvorov or who he was or what he meant, but nevertheless, please take a look at this Wikipedia slide and take a look at one thing. Alexander Suvorov had many different names. One was the Field Marshal of the Holy Roman Empire, or the Roman Field Marshal. He actually has quite a few different monikers, we could say, or the very many variations of his last name, and the different, we could say, colorful epithets he was given after various battles that he won. Colorful is exactly the word. The Roman Field Marshal, the Count Rimninsky, and so on. And he was invincible and undefeated as a commander. And now I'd like to emphasize something specifically for collectors, investors, and buyers. And what I would like to say is that old print books, as I like to call them, or antique books, is one of the very few, or maybe the only, thematic direction or area or sphere where it is next to impossible to fake something, right? A fake is very easily identifiable, and any expert, any specialist worth his salt can pretty much tell you easily, because the paper, the font, the very condition of the book really matters. It can tell you a lot. And such an old print book, for a specialist, or even for somebody who is a relative newbie in the field, a collector who has only been in the field recently of old print books, it's going to become very clear right away if they're holding an authentic book or a fake. Still, let me tell you this much. It is not only very profitable as an investment, specifically old print books, it is actually underappreciated, relatively speaking, if we compare them to paintings or other artwork. They're underappreciated, but also right now, the value and the popularity is growing. Why? Well, it's simple to explain. What is the value of books, philosophically speaking, socially speaking? Let's actually just take a look at this next slide or slideshow, what poets and philosophers and writers have to say about books, about the value of books. Take a look. All right, and now it is time to talk about something else. Again, this is specifically for buyers and investors, about the value of books among the right social circles. When people have enough capital and enough status, and when they can actually acquire masterpieces, then they do. Pretty much everybody who has reached a certain level, a certainly, level of stature in their social circles. If, for example, they're mayors or municipal deputies or politicians, members of parliament, congressmen or congresswomen, wealthy entrepreneurs. So when people have intellect, when they have education, they actually begin to look in that direction of literature and books. That subject becomes interesting, especially we're talking about old print books. And if we're speaking of politicians, let me give you an example, just using Ukraine as an example, but it relates to more than just Ukraine. Ministers or people even higher, also presidents. Basically, all the presidents collect books. But take a look at what I'm about to show you. Also, different other professions follow suit. Actors, performers, artists, and people who belong to intelligentsia, generally speaking, even small town or small city intelligentsia. And this tells us that books pretty much have been, are, and will be in demand, and especially today in this day and age when we live in an electronic epoch, so to say. Okay, but specifically for you, I would like to take a look at these indicators, at these specific phenomenon, and see how attractive as an investment this is. All right, let's move on. And I would like to emphasize something. As I've already said, books are underappreciated as a collector's item, but pretty much all the presidents of the top 20 countries probably conduct their inauguration ceremonies by using books. Either they place their hand on the book or the book is somehow present. And it's an old print book. It's either the Bible or the Gospel, or it's an apostle, actually. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information, a few examples from the USA and Ukraine. Donald Trump and many US presidents have sworn on a Bible, and all the Ukrainian presidents, they use the Persopnitsa Gospel. That's in Ukraine. And also they've used the Ivan Fedorov Apostle. Now take a look. And now, if we want to talk specifically about an apostle, which is a holy book containing the Acts and Epistles, letters of the apostles. So, for whatever reason, the apostles have been subject to theft. And that whatever reason is because it's especially valuable. So it gets stolen more from libraries, from museums, from private collections. Now, take a look at these slides so you see what I'm talking about. All right, and now I would like to give you a little bit of information, data, my most esteemed investors and partners and potential buyers about how valuable an apostle really is in Ukraine. And towards the end of the 2000 teens, so towards 2020, this is especially relevant. It has to do with the name of Poroshenko, the Ukrainian president. That's 2020, or maybe actually from 2014 to 2020. But I just want to tell you this so you give it a thought and think about how promising it really is to collect apostles specifically. Because, like I've said before, it gets stolen, it's in focus, it's used for inauguration ceremonies. And of course, collectors are interested in this book. So take a look. All right. And to conclude this particular plot script, so to say, but let me give you a little bit more information, just a bit more about how popular really this thematic collector direction is becoming, collecting books. I'm just going to give you a few examples about how, let us say, one comic strip page was sold for several $1 million, or another relatively famous case is when the Psalms, I believe it was a 1660s or 1640 actually edition, an American Psalms book, was sold for $14 million. And so book sales really reach up into the tens of millions. Another fact is that Bill Gates buys, or bought actually, a book by Isaac Newton. It had something to do with gravitation. It had gravitation in the name for $33 million. So these just go to show that real bona fide investors, educated investors, do have interest in books. They're interested in this theme direction called old print or antique books, historical editions, right? And it's a relatively high interest. It is not necessarily advertised too much as of today, but nevertheless, it certainly does exist, and it's growing more and more and more. Okay, and let me give you this little clip series just for you to take a look. Again, it's just something, a bit of an indicator of the types of prices that books can reach, or one page even can reach, or how much old print editions can sell for. All right? And you can make your own evaluations and conclusions. All right. So, I'm concluding my presentation on this particular lot, and I want to tell you this. Historical old print books, especially if they have marginal inscriptions, dedications, which definitely, indubitably prove that the book belonged to a certain epoch or person, then really their financial potential has no ceiling, really. And I'm saying this with full knowledge and responsibility. Because, for example, even a little piece of paper with Picasso's signature cost several $1,000,000. Really, just a piece of paper, right? Picasso, this extravagant, colorful painter, flamboyant, and he's very versatile. For me personally, early Picasso is a true, real artist, but let's put my opinions aside, okay? Anyway, let me once again repeat my conclusion that this particular lot, number 3, that is valued at 5 million euros, and it is a very rare edition of an apostle with an inscription to Alexander Suvorov. So that proves definitely that he actually owned the book. It was in his possession. And this lot has incredible value, much, much higher of a potential than the actual opening bid and price. And so we're actually ready to discuss something. I think this is important. With the buyer, we're ready to consider different options of our plan that we have using our know-how of increasing the value and the price if such a person buys this book. We're ready to help in this. We basically guarantee that this lot would grow in value and it can surpass $14 million or euros, just like the Psalms did. And it can also surpass even the Bill Gates example for $33 million. I myself am officially stating this, and I'm offering you to reach out, start our dialogue, talk about this, and discuss. And these are the possibilities. I wish you well, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much for your attention. If you'd like to take part in the project, or learn more, or acquire a particular lot or the whole collection, please do reach out to me at the contact info below. Thank you again.